The hippocampus is located deep in the medial temporal lobe of the brain. Here it looks like a pea pod, but others have compared its shape to that of a seahorse. Information enters the hippocampus and flows to pyramidal neurons in the CA1, then to other pyramidal neurons in the CA3, and finally to granule cells in the dentate gyrus, which are extremely condensed neurons that help regulate information in the region. Now, the dentate gyrus isn't necessarily the endpoint for information. Here we can see the dentate gyrus in a sagittal cut of the left cerebral hemisphere. Zooming in, we can see its location relative to the rest of the temporal lobe. Further, we can see its proximity to the entorhinal cortex. Information flows through the entorhinal cortex into the hippocampus, where it ends up in the dentate gyrus. Looking back at the dentate gyrus, I told you it's not the endpoint for information. This is because information can flow back into the entorhinal cortex through a reciprocal loop, or information spreads out to the rest of the cortex following the fimbria and fornix. One of the most famous studies involving the hippocampus is about a patient known as HM. Saying his memory wasn't that good is quite the understatement. HM had a large area of his medial temporal lobe destroyed and removed because of a seizure disorder. And as we know from earlier, the medial temporal lobe contains the hippocampus. When the hippocampus is destroyed alongside much of the medial temporal lobe, HM is left with anterograde amnesia, meaning he couldn't remember anything occurring after the brain lesions. The hippocampus is also responsible for creating connections between different pieces of information, like knowing that my coffee is hot, tasty, brown, and it'll make me feel pretty awake. It's also responsible for helping understand an object's spatial relation to its environment, how it may interact with an environment and its role in events, as well as its temporal relationship, like knowing how this chick may turn into an incredibly fast chicken if given the time.